Hi, friends, and welcome to Only Green. After having worked in the field of wildlife tourism for long, he found his own responsible ecotourism company with an aim to instill the love for nature in the minds of younger generation by conducting experiential learning program titled Vanvaas for students. He also tries to connect the urban people with the communities who live alongside the tiger reserves and the wilderness, and thereby trying to provide a livelihood to the people of the ecosystem, the local ecosystem. It's our honor to have with us Mr. Aniket Gupta, a wilderness educator and at Aaranyachar, which is his own initiative. Let's try and understand more about Aniket and also about the various activities of Aaranyachar. Welcome, Aniket, to
Hi,
Only Green.
hi, April. It's good to be
Hi.
here.
Okay, can we now hear about the story regarding your journey on how you got initiated into the domain of wildlife till the point of starting Aranyajar? We'll talk about Aranyajar later.
Yeah, all right. So basically, I've been an animal lover since I've been born. I've always been an animal lover. I've grown up around dogs, squirrels, cats, even cows for that matter. And I always had a liking to do something with the biological sciences. So
Okay.
I always had a inkling that I wanted to do something with biology. I was debating whether I would go into medicine or veterinary sciences. For me, that was a choice. Unfortunately, I didn't score that well enough in academics that I could get through either. However, I went into microbiology, and with that, I started studying microbes in different animals and stuff. So that was my research project. And over time, parallelly, I started doing visits to these national parks and tiger reserves, wildlife sanctuaries as a hobby, more for a learning experience to learn about different animals, birds, and just the environment in general. It started as a hobby. Over time, I started being decent at it. Like I gained a knowledge. I started doing freelance sort of things for different companies. And eventually, over time, somehow that idea and that urge to keep going back to the forest was so strong. And as you're well aware, going to these national parks and tiger reserves is not cheap anymore. So I thought that there was a point of time where I needed to somehow monetize what I know, what I'm good at, and also in a way to give back to the forest that I started loving so much.
Okay. And that's how Aranyajar was formed.
Absolutely.
Okay. Where is Aranyajar based?
So it's based in central India because, like, my registered address is in Kanha National Park. I live in Pune since the pandemic. I've been here. I've been using Pune as a base, but I primarily operate all over India. Central India is but like a second home to me. So I know everybody in the area, in the landscape. So it feels like home. So although I don't have a permanent address, I usually go then spend 6 8 months out of my year there. So that is why Aranyachar generally means like the forest dweller. So that is why Aranyachar was called that because I had started living like 6 8 months in the forest.
Okay, okay. Now, coming to Aranyajar, can you give us an insight into your various activities?
Okay.
And also, I mean, when you call yourself a wilderness educator,
Yeah.
so what is it that you're trying to convey or communicate through your activities?
Right. Basically, when I started doing wildlife tourism, I felt that there was a lack of proper orientation when people go to these parks. I'm sure there is a bit of natural history that is explained to them, a bit of no, birding knowledge, but these elements are quite disconnected. Like you don't really go into the depth of it, and you don't engage in curiosity. Just telling a guest, seeing a name or species of a bird is not enough to get them excited about the curiosity. So my whole idea was to do things in a way that it would be slower. It just won't be like a checklist, a bird checklist that okay, you went to a park, you saw these 10 birds and you came back. Rather than that, try and spend some time observing the bird, describing the bird. So like a simple activity. If you want to do bird watching, even if you're not good with art, I suggest people that you write down 5 things that you can see about that bird. Is it small? Is it big? Is it colorful? What is it doing? What? So if you want to, like, for example, just take a call of any bird, how does the bird sound like? Can you imitate that sound? Maybe you can, maybe you can't. What is it closest to? What sort of sound does it resemble? So you can take any activity, any small basic activity, and you can take it more interestingly, and that will help you learn about birds faster. So let's say you take an owl's call. So it's who. So what does it sound like? And what are the things that you can stories or folklore that you can come up with? So there are so many things that you can do with birds, with animals. So like for example, everybody goes to a tiger reserve. They want to see the tiger. Do a simple activity. Try walking like a tiger. Like try measuring its stride. Are you smaller or longer than the stride? Your stride is longer than the tiger's or not? So these are small little activities like I love doing with kids, especially. Also with adults, it's a lot more fun doing it with adults because kids obviously are they don't mind it so much. With adults, to break them out of their shell and to make them do these activities, I think I enjoyed the most. So that's what I'm planning to do with Aranyachar, like create these experiences where normal things that are just around you, just try and experience them in a different way and connect with nature in a better way.
What is this? I mean, can you explain a little more on this Vanvaas project?
Right. So Vanvaas is a project that I started in association with the Forest Department and a couple of local NGOs in Madhya Pradesh. So this is a collaborative effort where we try and step into the shoes of different stakeholders of the landscape, so to say. So, for example, there are activities where you walk in the landscape like you're a forest guard. So these are all activities that we do in not very wildlife prone areas, in more areas which are used by human people, but it's still a dense forest. So it is just to give people a feel of what it is like to step into the shoes of a forest guard to do patrolling, what are the kind of threats that they feel, or maybe share a meal with them in their patrolling camp. So what it is like to be a forest guard for a day. So the idea is to make them feel connected to how the forest department helps protect the forest. Similarly, there are communities who live around the forest fringes. So a thing that I genuinely feel, because I've come from the city and now I go to the forest, a question that I'm always told, or there's a thing for debate where people always say save the tigers and villagers should be moved out. The sanctuary should be made devoid of people. However, it is a very tough thing to live at the forest fringe with a tiger in your backyard. What do you do when you have kids, when you have a tiger visiting your village, you have kids around, you have cattle that you depend on, and in general, you have to use the forest part to reach another's town or, to go to school or to work. And if there is a tiger in the vicinity, how easy it is for us to say, save the tiger, it doesn't matter. Your feelings are not valid that you're scared of the tiger or stuff like that. And it also helps us understand why there are challenges in tiger conservation. Or for that matter, any other species. It doesn't need to be the tiger. It might be the snow leopard, it might be the wolf, it might be the leopard, it might be something else. So, whichever landscape it might be, living with wild animals is never easy. So, forget bigger wild animals. We can talk about snakes. Living with snakes is also not easy. So if you have a snake, it's very easy to say don't kill the snake. But what do you do when the snake turns up in your bedroom? So that's the whole idea that I want to explain to people. And this is a very good tool for us to understand how we can train ourselves to be better around wildlife, how to conduct ourselves when there is wildlife around us, and also sensitization for people outside to have a different perspective of the situation. Like when people, when villagers especially see that there are kids who want to learn how their lifestyle is. I'll give you an example. I do something with the Begas in Kana. So Begas are a very primitive tribe. They still depend on forest produce quite a bit. So when urban children go and spend time with the Begas, and we show them how sustainable their lifestyle is, and how they each thing does not have a ecological impact. Like there is no waste in a Bega village. So the only thing that you'll find is probably wrappers and stuff, which is again city introduced. Otherwise, you won't find actual garbage lying around anywhere. So, to explain kids like where is does the garbage come from? You think rural towns are the ones with all the filth? No, not really. The filth is in the urban landscape. So, there are so many things of learning there. So, Vanvas was supposed to be like in the Ramayana. Vanvas was supposed to be like almost like a bad thing. Like Ram was sent to run Vanvas. It was exile. Exile was considered like in a negative connotation. So I believe Vanvas is a very positive thing. I personally feel that, going to Vanvas is like a liberation. It's like a learning experience. And that is what I want to basically share with all the kids and people around me.
Meanwhile, you also involve the local communities in
Absolutely.
doing trekking and all, right?
Absolutely. So we do a lot of walks. We do practically you do what a villager would do in a daily life. So let's say early morning they wake up and they go to the nearby forest to, let's say, collect honey. Just for an example, let's say they source honey. So they would go and see how the honey collection is done and actually help them in the process. So there are so many other things. There is bamboo dependency. There's firewood collection. There is a couple of fruits and these flowers that they collect. Mushrooms. So monsoon season they collect mushrooms. So how to pick out the right size of mushrooms. So whether it's ripe enough to be picked up. So there are things which the tribal knows, which even we don't. Like for that matter, even I'm not trained enough to do it. I also depend on the expertise of the locals there. So made me maua flowers for making the wine, stuff like that. So there's so many different aspects. Plus, they're very good with crafts. So even when they harvest bamboo, they make baskets out of it. They make hats out of it. They use it for so many things in their life. So how you get to experience all of that, like every small little thing of what a villager goes through in his daily life. So it's a lot of conservation-based ideology. It's a lot of things that start conversations. It's more about people asking the question, saying, "Oh, so you have to trek 4 kilometers to just get water into your village. So there's no hand pump in your village. Why is there no hand pump in your village?" And then we start going at the ways on how we can help that landscape get better. If there is a river or a water body about 3-4 kilometers from the village, which goes through a forest, so what it is like to live like that, you know. So I think it's taking away a lot of privilege and giving a lot of learning. And then I genuinely hope my attempt with doing this Vanvas program is that people help create solutions for these kind of things. Like for example, if there is a hand pump, for example, there's a hand pump to be installed. So there might be government schemes or there might be processes that could aid this, or there might be organizations who can probably fund it or stuff like that. So putting people need to mobilize this as a opportunity to do things. Or let's say there's a school which does not have, let's say, a projector or a LCD screen. So they can come together, they can donate a thing and make it a smart classroom. So stuff like that, whatever ways it can be. Each village has their own set of problems, set of things that can be made better. So it might be water, it might be education, it might be something else. So Vanvas is my opportunity to use tourism to do more than just tourism. So I genuinely debate about what the meaning of tourism is. So I feel tourism is not just to go to a landscape and come back. I think it's about doing something with the landscape. So
Okay.
taking part in that landscape. So I feel that when I go to a landscape there, if I take something from it, if I take learning experiences, I take back memories, photographs, whatever I take back from the landscape, I need to give back also. So Vanvas, or in fact Aranyachar as a whole, I'm trying to do the same thing. That I gain so much from the forest, I need to give back. So this is my way of giving back.
So it's like having an experience and also at the same time giving back to the
Absolutely,
community there.
absolutely,
Which
absolutely.
means, I mean, you'll be coordinating with a lot of governmental and non-governmental organizations also, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. So the forest department is one big pillar, and over time, over the last 10-15 years, I've managed to create a decent amount of healthy rapport with most of the officers. Maybe the very junior staff, maybe the forest guards, maybe the drivers, maybe the cooks, and even like the peripheral staff who's not really directly connected to the forest department, but also has some amount of involvement with the locals. So usually the peripheral staff is usually the locals, while the officers might be posted through some entrance exams or stuff like that. So you need to have a connect with both. You need to have a dialogue with the upper people to encourage policy making or to influence change on a bigger level. However, when you want to have discussions with the locals and you want to find that one guy who can sway the decision in your favor, so who is that guy? To identify that guy, you need to know a local who will tell you, ki, this is the guy you need to speak with. So that being said, I think working around forest department has been very crucial to my own learning, and in turn shaping everything. Apart from that, NGOs wise, I have worked with the MP Tiger Foundation Society, who happens to be the NGO wing of the MP Forest Department. So they do fund a lot of things on ground beyond what the forest department mandated. Beyond that, they go out all the way. They do fundraisers. They do a lot of awareness things, and especially they've been helpful in doing reducing conflict, doing a lot of it. Despite being a part of the MP Forest Department cadre, it's still an NGO wing, and they do fund a lot of things. Apart from that, I have been a long associated volunteer of Last Wilderness Foundation, who's a Bombay-based organization, but they've been working around Central India for about last 10 years. So I partner with them in a lot of activities, and they also have these programs with the locals, wherein there are some experiences that they have curated, wherein tourists can come, pay some amount of money, and do some activity with the locals. So there are some workshops that they have, some walks that they've curated. So I have also been partnering with them right from training the locals to refining the process to getting tourists there to keep sure that the sustainability of the initiative continues. So I've been associated with them in multiple ways. Similarly, there are many more NGOs who I get associated with maybe on smaller basis. So there are NGOs which conduct walks. So India Heritage Walks conducts walks around Panna. So I usually call one of the volunteers to come and do a walk for my groups whenever I take tourist groups there. So different opportunities. Also, I try to do as much as I can as an individual. Also, beyond this, I because I know so many people in the landscape, I do keep figuring out stuff that requires to be done in the landscape. I funded. I'll give you an example. Like when I speak of this, so there is an initiative called Walk with the Pardis that the Last Wilderness Foundation does. So I remember in 2019, I took a group of some 40 odd kids for that walk. And at the end of the walk, the kids asked me, we want to give something to the local tribe people. What can we give? So I asked the tribe members, what would you want? What would make your life easier? So money for sure, but would there be something that you would require? So they said a cycle. So they said ki we live in a village which is about 4 or 5 kilometers away from the place where we conduct the walk, and a cycle would go a long way in for at least two members to at least climb up on board and make that journey. So we gifted them a cycle, and this is not me. This is nothing to do with me. This is completely the Pardis and the kids doing it. I was just a conduit. I was nothing there. So I feel that connecting people to the landscape helps solve problems. And if you ask me, I'm a tour operator. I can bring about maybe a very small fraction of change, but I take a lot more people than myself who can bring about that much more change. So let's say I do 0.1% change, but I take 100 more people with me who all can do that 0.1% change. That's when a sustainable change comes about. And any of the itineraries that I do or any of the activities that I do, I am open to sharing it with other companies, tourist companies, or maybe any individual people. So my thing is, I don't want to restrict it just to myself, saying, "Oh, I have curated this, so I'm going to hold on to it as if it's a monopolized thing." I genuinely believe if I'm doing this for the betterment of the community or the landscape, I can't hold it on to this and say, "Oh, this is my thing." I feel that it has to be the community's thing, and as many people who go to that tiger reserve or the landscape should do it. It doesn't need to be that you need to come with Aaranyachar to do it. Of course, I would be happy if you do, because it would make me feel proud and it would help me feel that I'm making a difference. But that being said, it does not limit anybody from doing the same activities in the landscape. In fact, I'm happy that Pune has a couple of these tour operators, my colleagues, who have opted a lot of these activities and made them sustainable. Because any activity to be sustainable has to keep happening. It can't be one off sort of thing. So I'm happy that Pune has a couple of these companies. I would like to name Foliage Outdoors is there. There is Footloose Journeys. All of these guys have been constantly doing activities with the locals, maybe the parties, maybe the begas, maybe with the forest department. They have been strong supporters of doing things for the landscape. And despite us being rivals or competitors, the spirit has been always that we want to do something for the landscape first. So I'm very happy that we have managed to do things in the spirit of the love of the forest.
I think the domain that you are in, there is no need for competition. There's space for everyone,
Absolutely,
and it is what you give back to the nature.
absolutely,
Now coming to the post COVID scenario. Once the COVID hit in 2020, I think the tourism industry as such had a major impact. But then I understand that during that time you have explored the otherwise unexplored potential for ecotourism, and also revealed the fact that rewilding and biodiversity are very important for our environment. At the same time, you realize that, I mean, other than tigers, there are other species, very interesting species that people can go and have a look at. Can
yeah.
you throw some light on that?
Yeah. So basically, because of the pandemic, almost about year and a half, I was stuck in Pune. I couldn't go travel to Central India, and I was stuck in Pune. So I kind of got stuck crazy, and I started going to the supposed non-wildlife places around Pune. So these are just hillocks. None of, there's only one major sanctuary here, which is and technically in that sanctuary you don't get to see anything. So unfortunately, despite being a protected area, the area does not have a lot of wildlife to showcase. However, around that sanctuary, maybe in a radius of about 40-50 kilometers, there is the Indian wolf, there is the Indian hyena, and also there has been presence of leopards in the past. So Pune as a district, I think, has a very good population of wolves. It's not localized or centralized in one location. The small little pockets and fragments spread all across the Pune landscape. So a little bit is towards the Baramati side, a little bit towards Jejuri, towards down, towards Ahmednagar. It's spread all around Pune. It's not in even one particular direction, so to say. So, but there are these different packs of wolves, and if you know, the wolf is the same Schedule One. It's in the Schedule One of the Wildlife Protection Act. It is equally protected as much as is the tiger. But I'm sure the tiger gets a lot more credit, a lot more attention than the wolf does. However, and like for me, when I first saw my first wolf, which was like about a year and a half, 2 years back probably. So the first thing that struck me was, they said the wolf was cunning. The wolf is so sharp an animal and stuff. And here there was this wolf, which I never assumed to find, sitting on top of a hillock in the heat of May. It's 42 degrees out there. It's 3 o'clock in the afternoon, and the wolf is sitting on top of a mountain ridge, sitting and basking in the sun. And to myself, I thought, what a dumb animal. Like, why would it be atop the ridge sitting in that heat? It's only later on that I realized it was using that as a vantage to have a look on both sides of the mountain. It was trying to hunt and it was using that as a vantage. But the first thought I had was like, this is not a very sharp animal. It's sitting out in the sun. A tiger or any other big cats that you would relatively see would be in the shade. They would be taking shade. They will be in close to a water body, trying to keep themselves cool. The wolf is out there in the sun. So I realized one thing, like, over the years, I've tracked tigers, leopards, a lot of it. I walked around most of these parks for different things. And I know decently well how to track animals on foot. And when it came to the wolf, I couldn't track them. Nothing worked. Whatever assumptions I made, okay, this is the time of the day, it's hot, he will come to the water. I should sit somewhere close to the water. Or it's too cold for him to move. Maybe he'll be close to the den area. Nothing. The wolf doesn't follow any rules. The wolf is practically the wildest thing that you can come across. And that is such, it has been such a learning experience for me, because to understand that animal, I really have to put in the effort. Like tigers, I feel I've become lazy because tigers have spoiled me. Tigers are very predictable. They stick to their roots, they stick to their patterns and behavior. The wolves don't. Wolves have no rules. There are no rules with wolves. So it has been a great experience for me to explore the grasslands around Pune. So these are all open areas which can't be farmed. Primarily, if you look at the landscape, it's too rocky, it's too dry. So farming is a big issue. Plus, it has a lot of iron and zinc content. So farming is not feasible. You'll have to put in a lot of investment to make the soil fertile and conducive to farming. So that being said, wolves use this landscape brilliantly. And wolves, the best thing and the worst thing about them is they are there in front of you for 1 second, and the next second they are gone, and you can't possibly find them out. Where did they disappear into? They just melt in the landscape. So that is an ability of the wolf that has just taken me by fascination to another level. And so the last 1.5 years, what I've started doing is there are these shepherds. So the wolves primarily depend on the sheep and the for survival, and these shepherds are the ones who primarily have a relationship with the wolves, which is not very great. So I've been trying to work with the Dhangars in terms of understanding. These shepherds are called Dhangars in the landscape, and these seasonally migrate. With the rainfall, they will follow wherever the rain goes. They follow the green grass. So in the monsoon time, they are around Pune and this area, and over time they slowly descend towards the Konkan, the Goan patch, the coastal sites. So wolves also have a slight migration. They don't completely leave the areas, but yes, they do split up, and then again the pack comes together. They have these seasonal changes. So basically, I've been trying to work with the wolves and get people to come and see the species. The first disclaimer I tell them is we are going to look for wolves, but we are not going to see one. So we are just going to go look for them. So that's the whole experience you come with me for. And there have been a lot of people, and there have been like dry spells like 3 4 months. Like people have come with me practically every other weekend, and for 3 4 months we don't see a single wolf. And there was this one day, I remember this three friends of mine had been coming with me back to back for about 3.5 months. And then one rainy evening, we find a blue-eyed female. So a rare mutation in a wolf, a blue eyes. And we found one female like that with two more pups with her. And everybody just flipped out. Like, like 3 4 months, there's nothing. And then the same location where we used to go to, and then there is randomly this female with two pups sitting there sleeping in the meadow, and then she gets up, she walks, stretches, again rolls down, then the fleas are troubling them. And so it's just amazing to observe their behavior. Plus there's a hyena, there are so many birds, there are harriers, there are birds of prey, raptors, so many of them. So, for me, it has been amazing to sit and learn about the grassland birds. I am not particularly great with the grassland birds. For me, this is like a learning experience. I'm good with the forest birds, the woodland birds. So, it has been, as a naturalist, I feel that, it's a great learning opportunity for me. And when people come along with me, there's so many birds that even I don't identify. There have been times when people have asked me, like, "Oh, which is this bird calling?" And I'm like, okay, let me get back to you on that. But it has been that great learning opportunity where I feel that I need to make more effort. So as a naturalist, I feel I had got lazy in between before pre-COVID era because of the tigers and the whole experience in the forest because I was familiar with it. So stepping into a new terrain, a new domain has been extremely fun for me. So Pune grasslands is something that I want to keep working with. I want to start working with the locals slowly. I'm trying to figure out a ecotourism model that benefits the local community, because after all they are the ones living with wolves, and they need to benefit from it. And I need to create a model where people can also take out some time of that tour and spend it with the local, maybe to help them out in some little way, or to do help create some sort of awareness, some sort of opportunity, or maybe provide a vocational training, because these places are not very far from Pune, about an hour or two. So people can probably take out maybe 1 2 hours every week or maybe every other week and go and teach those people some skill or some sort of thing that can help them get better. So maybe some dairy practices, farming practices, beekeeping, anything. So there's so many opportunities out there nowadays. So I want to kind of engage with people on how grasslands and the people living in the grasslands can benefit from the tourism that comes from the urbans.
Looks like looks like you've really fallen in love with the newfound passion, and you've cut a clear path for future.
Yeah, yeah.
How you want to take Aaranyachar forward?
Absolutely. I don't think I chose this. I think it just comes to me. I don't think I have been making decisions. I think it's just that I feel a certain way and I just do it. I I think, see, for example, like when I wanted to start doing conservation, I didn't think that I want to start doing conservation. Uh, I was very fond of tigers in Bandhavgarh. Bandhavgarh is one of my favorite parks. And fortunately, unfortunately, there has been a lot of man animal conflict around tigers in Bandhavgarh. And there was this point where I thought, like tigers are in danger. I love these tigers. I love seeing them. I love watching them. And if they are in trouble, there's something I want to do about it. So, what can I do? So, I can't practically go and protect them day in and day out. But what I can help is try and understand the conflict and try and give solutions on how to avoid the conflict. So, that's what I can do. So I found this opportunity with the Forest Department and Last Wilderness Foundation where I could go in and talk to the kids in different schools and give them basic pointers like, okay, if you're using a forest path, don't go alone, don't walk out without a torch, make sound when you enter into a forest, keep playing music or keep talking, basic precautions that you can do just to make the animal aware that you are somewhere close by, that you don't startle the animal. Tomorrow by chance you come upon an animal when you're walking through the forest, don't try to turn your back and run. Basic precautions. So this was something that is how conservation for me started. It was not a big thing that I'm a tour operator, I need to do conservation, I'm a wildlife conservationist, nothing of that sort. I just felt the need that I need to do something for the tigers that I love. If I don't want to see my tigers harmed, like I would like to call them my tigers, but if I don't want to see my tigers harmed, then you need to do something. It's your loved one, you do anything and everything for them. So why not for animals? You would do that for your pet. You would go take it to a doctor, do whatever they is needed for a pet. Why not for a wild animal? Sure, might not recognize you for it, but still.
I think you've very broadly talked about what we can expect from Aaranachar in very broad terms. The details regarding Aaranachar and the website plus the contact mail ID will be given in the description. Now, one last question.
Yeah,
When a common man wants to do a wildlife tourism or be a responsible tourist,
yeah,
what is the message that you want to give to them? I mean, how are they to be prepared for it?
right.
And what are the precautions to be taken and how do we go about it?
Okay. So I have basically three pointers. It doesn't matter who you book with, whether you book with me or any other travel company, or it doesn't matter which park we are talking or which landscape we are talking. I believe there are three simple things that you need to follow. First of all, keep a flexible itinerary. The day you go to any landscape with a fixed itinerary or like a checklist on what you're going to expect, you kind of limit yourself to doing only those things. So I feel maybe you fix up like about 75% of your itinerary, keep some window,
Buffer,
or yeah,
some buffer.
keep a room, keep some room to do things that can be spontaneous. Number one. Number two, I think every itinerary should have an element where you interact with the local. So it's not enough to go to, let's say, a city and take pictures of the local food and say I had a local experience, or watching a performance of the local folk art. I'm sure that helps, but you can do so much more beyond that. Don't limit yourself to only that, is what I would say. So you want to engage in the local cuisine, the local folk art, please practice that. But try and find the local artisan who you can probably support by buying his art. So it might be as simple as that, or try and figure out how you can, like for example, if you, let's say, go to Rajasthan. Okay, Rajasthan is known for its block prints and fabrics and stuff. So rather than just going and watching, so there are these places where you can do like a local cuisine dining experience, while there are some performers who will perform the local dance and songs for you. Perfectly okay to do that. I'm saying beyond that, just find a local artisan, which is not very tough to find. You'll find it on Google also nowadays. Find a local artisan where you can understand how tough it is to do block printing. Is it easy? Is it tough? And what goes into making a block print? And then because I think what has happened in today's world is people don't like paying for local stuff. So you would much like, people will negotiate saying, "Arey, ye to kisi ne haath se banaya. This is so easy to do. Why not just pay $200 for it?" But yeah, things that are made by hand are actually more painstaking. It's not machine made. So if the artist charges you something higher, if you understand the process, I'm sure then only can you appreciate it. For example, if I give you a handmade painting versus a printout, I don't think I'll value the same thing at the same price. So that is what I want to expect people to do. That take some time out, spend time with the locals, and give back to the locals, and not to organizations, not to like the big shops. Find a local artist, find the person who is making it, and give something back to him. And most of the time, it's not about the money. It's about the recognition or the appreciation of the work. It doesn't really need to be money always. It doesn't. You don't need to just go and buy stuff. You can just go and appreciate that I love your work. So that's what I will say. The second thing, to be nice to the local. Third, respect the place for what it is. So every place has a different culture. Something that might be okay in Ladakh might not be okay in Central India, and vice versa, or any other region for that matter. So, as a traveler, if you are going anywhere, I feel that you need to respect the local culture. Learn about it. Make that extra effort. That, how you would research the best flight you can get to go there. Try and research what the best thing to do as a local should. Like if you can take a present, or like if there's a local custom of gifting things when you enter, or carry sweets. A small effort on your part can go a long way in creating a bond for you with that landscape. And I think that's the best way to experience any landscape. You bond with it. And that's the simple thing I go by. That for me, I think even if I don't know, I usually will ask my seniors, people who have traveled to that landscape before, like what has been your experience? What is polite to do? What is not polite to do? There are cultures where it's okay to offer money to the god in the house. So let's say they have a place where a holy place. So people are okay with the fact that you don't offer them money, but okay, you can place the money by the feet of the god or the deity or whatever it is. So that's considered polite. You don't offer the person money directly. So these are small little things. Learn about the landscape, and usually ask people who have traveled there before. I'm sure they will come up with some suggestions, and try and incorporate them into your travel. So in some places, it might not be okay for somebody to drink. It might be okay, like for example, it's a personal choice for anybody to drink, but it might not be okay for some person for you to go to somebody's house and smoke or drink. They might not be okay with it. So that sensitivity when you're going to any landscape, to any person or any thing, is I think paramount. And I think if anybody follows these simple basic things, I think you'll be a much better traveler, and people will appreciate you more. And then once somebody appreciates you, they'll show back that affection. You show them a little bit of concern, it comes back to you. So
So
back in
in short,
yeah,
what I could understand is one is have some flexible time, buffer time
absolutely,
to be very clear about what's going to happen there. Second is to support the local community in terms of uh, mm, helping out with their skills.
yeah,
And the third one is to respect the culture and the landscape.
absolutely, absolutely.
Okay. Thanks, Aniket, and it was great talking to you. I mean, the first time I'm also talking to somebody who was seriously into the this tourism, ecotourism, and really a responsible way of doing it. Thanks a lot, and we look forward for more input from you in future.
Absolutely.
It was great connecting to you.
It's been a pleasure. Thank you so much for the opportunity. And one last thing. Please don't litter. Please carry your plastic waste back wherever you travel. It doesn't matter. Dump it in the cities. Cities have disposal units. Something or the other can be handled. Most of the pristine places, anything, mountains, forests, anywhere you go, they usually don't have the facilities to deal with plastic. So as much as possible, please carry your plastic waste back. That's my last thing.
I think the last one is the best one.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much.